This is Flexamat. This is a product out of Cincinnati, Ohio. All it is, essentially, this is to replace this is to replace riprap in a lot of applications. So it's a geogrid, and I can't tell if that's a biaxial or uniaxial. I think it's a uniaxial geogrid with just concrete plopped down in it. You do this, whatever netting mesh this is, and then with a core type, jute net. I don't think it's jute actually, but a net underneath it. And what you do is you get this graded out the way you want it, swaled and all that stuff. You roll some seed down, or you throw seed out, and then roll this mat out to however you've prescribed for the drainage to flow. We're going to carve this out up to that spillway up there, and it's going to essentially take the place of all that riprap, but it's a vegetated erosion control mat essentially. So with the durability of some concrete worked in there and stuff. So this is a new product to me. I've not used it before, and this is what our overlords here are going to be speccing a lot more on these projects, I think. This roll was about 2,000 bucks. Is that right, Britt? About $4 a square foot, give or take. And then about 600 for shipping from Cincinnati to Columbus, Ohio. Actually, Zanesville, Ohio. So we'll roll this out here in a couple days, but it's still too wet to really do much work around here. But we'll see how it goes. We've got our spillway cut out here pretty good. We're getting there. We're gonna get this leveled out. We're gonna take this manhole and drop it, and get this soft, or all this overburden, I guess you could call it. Okay, cool. Okay. But get all this heavy out of here, and then stand back, take a look at it, see what's gonna take to get that roll of mat in here. But you can see we'll carve these banks back a little bit, and I think be in pretty good shape. We didn't want to go, I mean, we'd like to not have that manhole there, which is a storm drain. We'd like not have that there, of course, but we could run it this way, but then we're shooting any overflow water right at the building, which we don't want to do. And so we kind of made the call to run this thing straight, which is what the original scope was, but we thought about changing it to run this way so we're not having to work around that. But we're going to change that and go this route now. So got our spillway carved out pretty decent here. We got a few fine-tuning things to do. We're going to lower that manhole because it's got a brick and mortar riser right there, so we're going to drop that thing down. We're going to get the 595 up in here and run that thing around a bit, get this settled in and compacted in nice and firm, and then we're going to get our roll of Flexamat up in there. We'll cut it out around that, of course, and out around that, and it's got to be keyed in, so the edges have got to get taken and turned in, buried in the ground, so that they're less prone to being washed out or whatever. So then we're going to have that stuff just daylight right here to the edge. So shaping up to look pretty good. I hate that manhole's in the middle there, but our original concept had it coming off this direction, but we like this a lot more. I think it doesn't shoot it right at the building, and it gives it more chance to actually get to our other overflow amenities there. So I think we're in good shape, looking good. So we got this laid out now. We've got to cut a trench in around this thing to key it in, so the edges are keyed in. Yeah, come here. Keyed in and protected from scour, any water getting under it and ripping it out from underneath. We cut the excess out into two 8-foot rolls, make it a little easier to handle. I probably ought to just throw it away and not even goof around with keeping it on hand, but you know, it's hard to throw expensive material away. So anyhow, that's the setup. We're gonna get this cut out around these manholes and get this keyed in and keep moving. So for today, we got it in. I was hoping to get a little bit ahead on this, but it's not where we want it to be exactly yet. But we got to key in the edges, cut out around our manholes and stuff like that, and all that. But it's a neat looking thing. Square it up a little bit. It's a little bit obviously out of alignment. So we're gonna bring this thing. We're taking this 308 off a rental, and I'm gonna bring my 303 up and use it to key in these trenches with a 12-inch bucket and a little bit of tidy up work, and get that thing off a $700 a day rental and save us some money that way, hopefully. So I should know better, having never installed this before. I should have known today it would go about like it did, which was just to get it on the ground. What we want to do tomorrow is we're going to dig a 1-foot trench here with a 12-inch bucket, deep enough to key in the edge here, turn that stuff down into it, get a little bit of an embankment build up on each side, and cut out around our manhole covers, and then do all our finished grade work. Hopefully knock this thing out for 90% of it tomorrow and a little bit Friday and get on to another project. But all in all, today was an okay job. Just handling this stuff is a bit of a pain. We took the last remaining 2 sections of it, which is about 13 foot long, give or take. I cut it into, took a cutoff saw, concrete cutoff saw, a gas-powered cutoff saw, and cut it into 2 8-foot strips, which will make it a little bit easier to handle. We might actually armor the shoulders of our structure with that, and see what we end up with there. But this hopefully make it a little bit easier to either manage or throw away or use on in the future work. Which for the most part, we should not take this anywhere. We should dispose of this because it's just gonna go to the shop and rot. Which is the way with a lot of leftover supplies. You want to get rid of stuff as much as you can. You don't want to stockpile things that you use rarely, because it ends up taking a lot of space up. And it's generally more expensive to double and triple handle it than it is to have brand new materials ordered, delivered, and out of your hair forever. So I wasn't able to be here for the fine-tuning of this phase of the project, but here we are the day after. And what we did, and this is according to a lot of the specs, we armored the shoulder here just where there might be overflow here on the sides. But this is keyed in here at the top. So this top edge is turned down vertical along the backside of the wall, and then we ran some concrete up on the top edge here to help reduce or prevent or eliminate any concerns of scour or washout, you know, so all the water is directed over. The edges tied into the edge of the soil there. Again, more concrete grouted in kind of around the manhole here where this is keyed in all the way around it. The channel's obviously sloped so that the water stays down the middle of it. The guys fought with this stuff a bunch to try to get it half straight. It was really challenging with the manholes we had to work around, this odd angle, a lot of stuff like that. Pretty frustrating having to deal with. But next thing here is getting our ECM in place, erosion control mat, seed down, and now we're gonna start running out this ECM through here. So things are looking good, but that's the install. Pretty easy, pretty cut and dry. Nothing real challenging about it, other than it just takes a lot of brute strength really and force once you get into detailing it in. So Travis is up here getting ready to set in our erosion control mat using these pin pounders. It's a magnet pretty much stuck to the bottom of a a dowel rod or something, and saves you. Generally this is a little bit specific of a situation here, but in general it saves you from bending over and having to bend over to drive in these pins that hold in our erosion control mat there. So that's just a netting with some straw in it. I take for granted that a lot of folks, I guess, in various parts of the country don't use straw or any kind of that stuff for their seed applications, which is just so foreign to me. But what the straw does, be it you hand scatter the straw or you use these straw mats, straw blankets, this straw helps reduce erosion. It holds moisture and shades the new seedlings until they get established. So that's the point of that stuff. We nearly forgot was, and we had them purchased already, were these horseshoe pins, and there's specs for how these get driven in, but these things get driven in a prescribed manner, throughout all this stuff with whatever size hammer you need. But these just go down in to help hold it and stabilize it. The place where that stuff is really going to be important in the keying in is if you're using it on a stream bank where that stuff's going to need to be keyed in like crazy. So really need to make sure you're following those specs in stream embankments especially.